Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Saturday, December 7th, 2019. In both the Lynn life and the Jamie Body Mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and all other souls from all other dimensions, as long as the souls are already living by the many rules already given to the search for truth community by wiser minds above all of us. And it's really clear that souls don't listen to that, and they come in regardless of whether or not they've been living by the rules. And it's kind of similar to elected officials.
Oh, that's right.
For example, in Massachusetts, which is a very liberal, progressive state, right now, the governor and speaker of the House are blocking a Green New Deal style bill, a bill that addresses climate change. And
That's
these
right.
two men are blocking progress of the bill, presumably for payoffs.
That's true.
Because it's Massachusetts, an extremely liberal state where the Green New Deal is popular and where the concept of addressing the reality of climate change is popular.
Yeah, that's right.
And there were maybe 500 young people demonstrating in the Capitol House, and 27 of them were arrested because the police said the building was closing even though the governor was still in there.
That's true.
The governor was refusing to come out and talk to them after 5 hours.
That's right.
So it's similar in that souls come into lives regardless of whether or not the lives are supposed to be in service to better quality souls.
That's true.
And now what do? We're here in the effort to inspire a divine miracle to get humanity to stop destroying the planet. And we have many open inquiries on the table, and one of the open inquiries is what could be done to implement instant karma, not only for the best of the best, but also for the bad tail of the bell curve of karma, those who are pulling hardest in the direction of continuing the destruction. And arguably that governor and speaker of the House in Massachusetts are pulling harder in the other direction, because we really need a breakthrough in the U.S.
That's true.
It's interesting because the U.S. Per person carbon emissions are something like 16.5 I don't know, metric tons or something of carbon
Something
per
like that,
year.
yeah.
We remember the number, but not what it is. But it's the count of carbon per year, some measure of carbon. And in Europe, it's something like 6.5
That's right.
metric tons, or whatever the measurement is, of carbon emissions per year per person. And why the difference? And obviously some of it is transportation modalities, but possibly a lot of it is that they're way ahead of the states in switching over to renewables. And
That's
we look
right.
like imbeciles.
That's true.
And it's embarrassing, really embarrassing. And here we have a legislature that is attempting to move forward and not look like we're brain dead. And there's two men who are blocking progress, and surely that's bad karma. So what do we do? How do we implement instant karma? And we had a viewer recently questioning it,
That's
and
what they're
the
talking
answer
about.
from above is, look, this is not as easy as you might think it is to implement instant karma
That's
in an
true.
era of astral turbulence and astral collapse, where intervening dimensions between divinity and density
Right.
are causing energetic patterns to be pulled off track. And they use the example of, let's say there's some evildoer here on ground zero planet Earth, and wiser minds above are sending in a lightning bolt to zap that puppy, and in the intervening dimensions there's a sudden collapse, and it pulls the lightning bolt off and zaps
Right.
a nearby Buddhist monk who's meditating.
Right.
And that's not desirable. So it's really tricky, and it seems that these intervening dimensions are quite a problem.
That's
so
true.
that kind of circles around to another inquiry that's been run through this periscope, maybe, or facility.
That's true.
And the inquiry is, what do we do about these intervening dimensions that are cushioning between divinity and density?
That's right.
How do we kill the undead, quote unquote, on a mass scale in a way the undead acknowledge? Because these intervening dimensions are just dead people who, in many cases, don't know they're dead.
Exactly.
They think they're living lives, but we can see their feet floating in the air.
That's true.
So we know they're dead. How do we address that? How can we be of service right now to implement strategies of clearing these intervening dimensions? How can we get the dead to go up to God? How can we get the dead to go up to God?
Someone in that higher dimension room keeps circling back around to the situation they were talking about at the very start of the film session, when they were talking about the protest in Massachusetts. And they keep showing the young people, the protesters standing in City Hall, might have been the building, State Hall.
State
Hall.
Capitol building, and
they keep showing
they're young
that.
people, and they're young people, and there's maybe 500 of them, but it's so embarrassing for anybody who's an adult to think that we're leaving young people holding the bag on this.
That's what they're talking about.
It's so embarrassing, because if we think about it, and how this body's 61 years old,
That's
and
right.
when talking with somebody of our own generation, we talk about the kids, the 30-year-old kids, because we remember what it's like to be 30, and you don't have your perspective that you have after you've had a little bit more water under the bridge. And so we talk about these kids, and we're leaving these kids holding the bag on an enormous problem of our making. That's so humiliating. It's embarrassing and wrong, really. What's happened to our integrity?
And now they're talking about another point they were making in the work earlier today. They were talking about presences who are responsible for planet Earth, and some of them being Christ presences, and some of them being presences of other affiliations, who don't know what dimension they're in, or are confused about what dimension is actually ground zero, where it's like the scale of density is.
Right.
Even the Christ presences, very familiar presences.
Right. It's like another coming of the Christ presence, and he's been working in Central America for quite some time, but when we see him now, he's floated up out of this dimension and is in a less dense dimension, and he can tell that something's wrong, but he can't tell, hasn't yet figured out, oh shoot, I'm not even in the correct dimension anymore. And if he can't tell, what chance do the rest of us have? Like, that's really bad.
That's really bad.
He can't tell. Look, watch him. He can tell that something's wrong. He can tell it doesn't feel right.
No.
I think the astral turbulence has him too, because he's not looking in the correct direction. If he would look in the correct direction, he would be able to see, oh, I'm supposed to be down there.
That's true.
But he's looking in an incorrect direction, which is because of astral turbulence. Maybe the dimension he's in is tilted like this, and so he thinks he's looking down, but he's looking diagonal, and then he doesn't find what he's looking for, because the dimension he's in is listing, like a sinking ship.
Exactly, and the ground under your feet isn't
what you think it is.
That's right.
He's not standing on what he thinks he's standing on, and if that's his experience, let's not be confused that we're going to be having more clarity. That's a little concerning.
And I think the speaker is another presence who's affiliated or responsible for Ground Zero Planet Earth, but doesn't have the same level of boots on the ground experience
Nowhere
as the Christ presence
near
does.
the same level. Nowhere near. It's some high caliber soul who's
Yeah.
come in, but they're just not experienced like, and they're calling him Charlie. They're not experienced like Charlie is. It's a familiar name. It's what they call him upstairs.
The Christ presence
Christ
for Planet
presence for
Earth.
Planet Earth. It's like a nickname.
Yeah, that's right.
And the angel, very high-ranking, important person, angel, is trying to come in to help in this dimension, possibly in Planet Earth. I can't quite tell, but in this dimension, definitely.
That feels solid.
And says, if Charlie is having a hard time connecting, how viable is this opportunity? Well, we think these intervening dimensions are a real problem.
That's true.
Can't quite tell who's speaking.
No, I was just wondering.
The microphone shifted and it's a different soul now, and is saying these intervening dimensions are a real problem. It might be where to start. We've got to start somewhere and do something
that's right.
to get the situation unstuck, and that's clear. We've got to start somewhere and do something. We're trying to implement instant karma for the bad tail of the bell curve of karma, and in such a way provide guidance to the masses so that humanity realizes, oh dear, there are powers over us, and karma is real. What goes around comes around, and I need to stop being such a jerk.
That's true.
And there are presences upstairs who have begun the process of attempting to strike down the evildoers, quote unquote, and the intervening dimensions are causing mistakes to happen, and they're backing up saying, whoa, I don't want to make it worse.
Yeah.
Which is understandable, but we've got to start somewhere and do something to unstick it. Mistakes are going to happen.
That's true.
And that's true anytime you jump into a big mess. Some things aren't going to go well, but we just clean up our messes and move on. And now we're circling back around to, they're saying the elderly, which is this generation, not cleaning up our messes. And this is just horrifying. And where's our integrity? Where's our integrity? Anybody who's, let's say, over, I don't know, 40 or something, if we're not diving into clean up this mess for the youngsters, quote unquote, where's our integrity? We've made the mess. It's us. And it's us in this country with our 16.5, whatever it is,
Right.
of carbon emitted per year. We are the worst of the worst. We are the super bad guys. They keep showing those young people arrested at the Massachusetts state capitol.
That's right.
What is it, guys? What now to implement instant karma for the bad tail of the bell curve of karma in such a way as to provide guidance to the masses and balance the bell curve of karma? They're talking about how many of those young people are part of the best, and they themselves have requested instant karma, and
That's
so
true.
maybe they were thinking angry thoughts or mean thoughts or something, and the people who are thinking mean thoughts have instant karma applied, while the people who are the worst of the worst don't have instant karma applied, and that's no way to provide guidance to the masses.
I follow.
That's crazy. It's a broken system. What now? To implement instant karma for both tails of the bell curve of karma, not just for the best of the best, but also for the worst of the worst, in such a way as to provide guidance to the masses and balance the bell curve of karma. Because if we look at that scenario of who is left in the state building after 5 p.m., it's the 500 young people, the governor, and the police who are arresting the young people when they
That's
should
true.
probably be arresting the governor.
That's true.
For him is the message. And why do you ask? It's abuse of power. That's what it is.
That's true.
And how are we exactly like that? How are each of us as individuals abusing the power, quote unquote, that we have, which we would say responsibility that we have to care for this planet? We will all be dead one day, and this planet will still be here. Do you hear anything?
No. I don't even hear that room where they were talking about the Christ presence anymore.
No. What now? To implement instant karma, not only for the good tail of the bell curve of karma, but also for the bad tail of the bell curve of karma, in such a way as to provide guidance to the masses and balance the bell curve of karma. How may we be of service to implement instant karma for the bad tail of the bell curve of karma? Friends, it's super important that nobody take this into their own hands. Acts of terrorism, even if they're divinely inspired, are not recognized as the hand of God.
No.
And it really needs to be something that an insurance company would call an act of God.
That's true.
And they're talking about that not-for-profit that 100 years ago was working through how to employ
That's
warfare to change behaviors.
That's right.
War isn't ever the answer. Brahm's message. And why do you ask? I assume somebody upstairs is saying once more, oh good, well let's just start a big war and kill them all off.
No.
War isn't ever the answer. Hark the XR rebels sing, climate change is happening. Peace on earth is just a pipe dream, while denial is mainstream. As the ocean waters rise, politicians shut their eyes, and the oil execs proclaim, no one knows who is to blame. Hark the XR herald sing, climate change is happening. All the beings on earth are linked, all at risk of going extinct. Every second that goes by makes us fear our kids will die. As the fires burn in Brazil, as the rich get richer still, as the forests are cut down, poorer folks will starve or drown. Hark the XR rebels sing, climate change is happening. Hail the carbon-breathing tree, hail the green economy. Science gave us all the tools to move off of fossil fuels. System change must be our mission. We will make a just transition. Every person can take part. Our rebellion's at its start. Hark the XR rebels sing, climate change is happening. Hark the XR rebels sing, yonder comes an uprising. You're a good singer. You sing too.
You did a good job.
What a sweet boy. What a sweet boy.
And everybody who's participating in Extinction Rebellion, we are very proud of you.
We're very proud of you.
And we stand with you.
We stand with you. Maybe we sit with you.